Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to remind you of a couple of ways we can work together this year. So if you're listening to this the day the episode has gone live, the doors to the sisterhood are open until the 1st of February. So the link is in the show notes to become a member. This is my manifestation and mindset community for monthly live calls, monthly masterclasses, to enhance and continue on with your personal development journey so you can manifest your dream life in 2023 with accountability with all of your goals and tons more support. And if you want to go deeper together, working together one-to-one to really unlock who you are here to be in the world, to release and clear and heal all of the shit that has been holding you back and move into a space where you are completely in alignment with your dream life, taking conscious daily action, as well as feeling like a whole new version of yourself, then one-to-one coaching is for you. This is the most intimate and high-level way to work with me to get bespoke support with your unique goals. All my clients get access to me throughout the week on WhatsApp. We dive deep into the sessions, but you can also voice note me. It really is like having me as your cheerleader in life. Many of my clients love that and love that feeling of being supported. The link is in the show notes to apply. You can book a free call in February or as soon as I'm available, and I can't wait to hear from you. Welcome back to the Put Yourself First podcast, and we are continuing with our new series. I feel like it needs a name, but I've not thought of a good one yet, so we're just gonna call it the series for now. Not very sexy, but if it ever has a name, it will be linked in the show notes, because what I would love to do, hoping to pull on my Capricorn organisation here, is I would love to have this series as a page on my website or something that you can sign up to for free, where you can get the library of all these episodes. So if you are like new to this work, new to the podcast, you can literally dive in and have this library all organised, all laid out for you, from like mindset, manifestation, this. So that is on the cards for this year. And this episode is all about how we sabotage our own growth, why part of you doesn't want to be successful and how to work with that part so that you can move forward. Because most people come to personal development and coaching because they want to change something in their life, but they're not getting the result they want. They're not experiencing the shift that they want to have. And the things that we're going to talk about today may very well be why. These are very key principles that we work with. I work with in my programs with one-to-one clients, in coaching, in NLP, in hypnotherapy, in EFT. All of the tools that I use lean on this knowledge that most people have certain conflicts within themselves that keep them from consistently moving forward. And that could be being who they want to be in the world. Maybe you want to be, you know that you want to show up in a certain way with confidence, with self-awareness, with more presence and more energy in a room, but you struggle right now with feeling nervous or anxious when you enter a room in a new space where you don't know anyone, and you're not quite sure how to do that. You're not quite sure why that is happening, why you can't just make progress. Same with a goal. Maybe you're manifesting something right now. Maybe you want to create something in your life and you know what the next step is, but you can't quite seem to get there. You're procrastinating. You're inconsistent. You're saying you want something, but your actions are showing very different. And there's a deeper layer to this that I think we do ourselves a disservice with in society when we shame ourselves, when we apply really unhelpful labels and stories around what's happening, when in reality these are just unconscious mindset and energetic things that we can work with and we can tweak and we can process, we can rewire them. So let's dive in, and I want you to think as we're going, which one jumps out to you? Maybe you'll see yourself in one of these. Maybe you'll notice that this episode creates a link, like a jigsaw piece. Because I often think with the work that I do, you are so unique. You are like your own jigsaw. And our work together is really discovering how we find a piece of the jigsaw and put it in the right place, and something clicks and it locks into place and it is whole again. Like, we're building this jigsaw, which is you, which is your life, which is, you know, where you want to be, who you want to be, all of that good stuff. And each piece of your development, including listening to this free podcast today, is just finding another piece of your jigsaw and putting it in place. So the first thing, and this is probably I don't want to say the biggest one, but certainly what I see a lot, and it is what I refer to as the conscious and unconscious divide. You may hear the word conflict, like there's a conscious, unconscious conflict. So listen to the previous episode, which I'll link in the show notes, if you want to learn more about your unconscious mind. But bringing back the analogy from that episode about that sieve. And just in case you didn't listen, I want to just quickly go over that analogy again. Your unconscious mind, so the part of you that you are not consciously aware of, it's just happening, it's in the background, it's playing like a computer's program and system is playing and operating behind the scenes. Think of it like what gets through to your unconscious, what it accepts, is like water going through a sieve. So you've cooked rice, you've cooked pasta, you're pouring it into a sieve. Your unconscious mind accepts the water and doesn't accept the rice and the pasta. It doesn't let it through. And what is happening there is the sieve essentially is made up of certain filters. And these filters are your upbringing, your conditioning, your values, your beliefs. All these pieces of your unconscious imprint, right? The program that is running. And all the unconscious mind is doing is maintaining that program and running it, continuing to run it in the background. And so if something in that programming is different or in conflict to something that the conscious mind wants to do, wants to change, wants to accept and receive, then that is what is happening with that conscious-unconscious divide. The pasta is not going to get through that sieve, no matter how much you try, because we are 95% unconscious. So it's not a fair fight, really, is it? If you're trying to just think and talk yourself through something, you're trying to convince yourself to do something, you're just trying harder. You're just going to do something surface level and conscious, like, oh, well, if I just buy the right outfit for the gym and join that new workout class, I just need to do that. I just need to buy this course and then everything is gonna be fixed. Or I just need to find the right person and then I'll be happy. The conscious reality, there's something that's going to get missed along the way if the unconscious does not line up, does not align with what is happening. So an example of this might be you consciously want to gain more success in your career, and you have started this year and you were like, this is the year where I'm going to put myself forward for the promotion, or I'm going to go and interview for that job, I'm going to apply for that role, I'm going to start that business, whatever it may be, whatever your goal is. That is a conscious goal. So you, as a conscious human, and this is why humans are different from animals, we can daydream, we can create realities for ourselves because we can consciously perceive something. So you think, oh, I would love to get that promotion this year, or this is the year I'm going to get that pay rise. So that's the conscious mind choosing that and wanting that. And what the majority of, I guess, mainstream personal development focuses on, certainly in the beginning, certainly the more, I guess, beginner level work that you might do, focuses all of its energy on that. So how do we set a goal? How do we make a plan? How do we, like I said, thinking about wanting to, let's stick with the career example, Kat. Right, so what are you going to do to get the promotion? Well, you're going to need to read this book, and you're going to need to go and speak to this person, and you're going to need to make a step-by-step plan, and you're going to need to study this topic. You're going to need to spend X amount of time a week doing X, Y, Z. And whilst that is part of it, that action, in the grand scheme of things, is actually only 5% of it. Because if we aren't working with the unconscious mind as well, an unconscious divide might be at play. So you want to gain more success in your career. You want to get that promotion. But unconsciously, your unconscious mind is programmed to fear rejection, as if being rejected is literally the same as dying, the same as being in grave danger. Because growing up, it was modeled to you that rejection was not safe. Maybe phrases you were told growing up was always that you had to be the best. It was always implied that if you were number one, it was nothing, right? It was rejection. So avoid rejection, avoid not being the best at all costs. Let's say that was your experience in your childhood or your upbringing. You've had specific memories that your unconscious mind has remembered, like installing a tape on, or like installing a CD onto a computer, and the unconscious mind has developed meaning and beliefs and values and aspects of your personality surrounding that. So you have an unconscious, deep-seated fear of rejection, and you believe that you need to avoid rejection at all costs because rejection is awful. So, what do you think is going to happen when you go for the interview or go to apply for the position? The unconscious mind is going to be triggered at some point because that deep-seated fear, remembering that 95% of you is capable of, at all costs, like maintaining that order of things. So it's going to stop you from being rejected at all costs. And this is why I hate it when people think that procrastination or something like that, self sabotage, is just them not being motivated enough or them being lazy. Like, I hate that BS story that we have in society. It's not. It's just a divide. There's a conflict between what you consciously want and what is unconsciously being maintained as the norm, as safe, as this is good, right? If this is good is never being rejected, do you think that your unconscious mind is gonna feel 100% comfortable allowing you to be in a room where you could be rejected for the very thing that you value most, which is, say in this phase of your life, your career is like your biggest focus? So we need to work with the unconscious mind, and we need to go in and look at that in order to allow you to move forward and work alongside it so that it can accept the new. It can accept the new information that it's okay to be rejected. It's safe to be rejected. Being rejected doesn't mean anything about me as a person. But most people, unfortunately, struggle for quite a while, at least until they find their own way to figure this out, because it's like using 5% of a computer and expecting it to run well when 95% of the computer you're just unaware has a virus or has a program on it that isn't gonna get you what you want. So that's that conscious and unconscious divide. So whether you remember the computer analogy, the sieve, whatever, I hope that's making sense. The second thing, and there is some crossover here, like many people experience or will resonate with all three of what I'm going to share. But the first is the conscious-unconscious divide. The second is secondary gain. So in hypnotherapy, we talk about secondary gain because what happens when someone comes into a hypnotherapist's office and they want to quit smoking? I know that's a really common reason why people go to hypnotherapy. And you can read, I don't have statistics to hand, but I know for things like a phobia or smoking, there's really great stats on how effective hypnotherapy can be. And maybe the person has heard their friends say it worked for them, it was great, and we know that hypnotherapy is working with the unconscious mind. So it is taking into account it reprogramming that computer system that's running 95% of us. So why does someone still not get the result they want? Secondary gain is basically you are gaining something from the very thing that you are trying to get rid of. So, or change. So you are gaining something by not having what you want. You are gaining something by holding on to that fear. So the person who fears rejection, let's say they go to hypnotherapy, and they still can't quite get over that fear of rejection. They still are so triggered that they're not showing up as their best self in the interview. That person might have secondary gain from their fear of rejection. Because let's say the fear of rejection is protecting them from something deeper, a deeper story that they have, or meaning that they've created around it. So let's say I'm really like putting myself on the spot here with this analogy. I should have made notes. Let's say that this person was rejected when they didn't win by a certain parent, and that at the time when they were a child was a painful experience for them. To not only experience rejection, to not only have this value and belief being upheld that if you weren't number one, you were the worst, but they were experiencing rejection from a parent, from a caregiver, from someone who they valued and respected and loved, and they literally needed that person's love and acceptance in order to survive. Can you see how if someone feels, if someone's unconscious mind holds on to that story and that meaning surrounding rejection, that it feels unsafe for that person to put themselves in a situation where they could be rejected, because the unconscious mind doesn't care whether it's their dad or not rejecting them or, you know, a colleague they're having the interview with. The unconscious mind doesn't know these things. It's not like, you know, it's just a program running over and over. It doesn't care whether it's you can't just consciously say, that sounds stupid because I know it's not my dad doing the interview. The unconscious mind doesn't care. The unconscious mind cares about keeping you safe from that rejection, because you made rejection mean that you weren't going to be loved based on this experience. So that is an example of secondary gain. Other examples can be you want more money in your life, you want to get a pay rise or grow your business, make more, get more clients, and you're really struggling to do that. You feel like something isn't quite right. You're taking these steps, but not a lot is happening. Your secondary gain might be that you were told growing up that all rich people are corrupt and greedy. So your secondary gain is, well, why would I want to be the thing that is associated with being evil, greedy, and corrupt? The unconscious mind is gaining something by not earning more money, because it's gaining, love and respect. It's gaining safety, or at least that's what it's imprinted, right? Because all of this is irrational, and this is why there's no use thinking of it logically and consciously, because it's not logical and it's not conscious. It is the unconscious, irrational part of us. And yet people will bang their head against the wall and feel so frustrated with themselves when, once you understand the inner workings of this and understand things like, well, what am I gaining by not changing? What am I gaining by staying where I am? Once you can understand that that is what is happening, again, we can work with the unconscious mind to begin breaking down that story and maybe even creating evidence of a new story, creating evidence of safety, and allowing the unconscious mind and the nervous system to be receptive to a new experience. So that is secondary game. So we've done conscious unconscious divide, we've done secondary gain, and I also want to talk about conflicted parts. So this is very similar to conscious unconscious parts, because you could argue that most parts are unconscious, and then you've got your conscious mind. So you've got your logical brain, and then you've got maybe in your unconscious mind you might have what you would refer to as your inner critic, or maybe your inner child, maybe different parts of yourself that feel differently about different things. That can all be unconscious. So when it comes to conflicted parts, this is you if you find yourself saying, part of me wants this, but part of me wants this. So part of me really wants to nail this promotion and finally get it. Part of me is blocking me. Part of me is getting in my own way. Part of me is self-sabotaging. Part of me is scared to have it. And this is very similar to the first one, the conscious unconscious divide, but I think we get more specific when we talk about parts, because many psychologists work with different parts, different archetypes, like I've said, inner child, inner critic, ego. These are all examples of different parts that you can have. And there's I don't know what the right word is. There's like a modality or a principle, a body of work, I guess you could say. I think it's called internal family systems. And it's based on creating and developing these different characters, these different parts that ultimately protect our inner child. So there's an inner child within us that holds on to a lot of the experiences we had as a child, or any traumas, belief system we were imprinted on, ingrained in, things we were told about ourselves, all of that. And that our inner child has fears, has doubts, has, like I said, that fear of rejection, because it means that your parent doesn't love you, for example. So this body of work, internal family systems, puts forward that we create these parts. And I've done a podcast episode last year on this topic, and I talk about my parts in that podcast episode. Doing that was so eye-opening for me. Give that a listen if you're interested in hearing me break down, obviously, my own example. But what happens with conflicting parts is the very same thing that we were talking about before. Because if part of you wants something and part of you doesn't want something, then you've got a fight on your hands, you've got a conflict on your hands. And so many people experience that frustration of feeling like they're battling with themselves, because it's like it's like being in an argument with someone and one person says the sky is blue and the other person says the sky is green, and both people are, all they're bothered about is maintaining that their experience is the truth, that the sky is blue and the sky is green. And in that argument, and we've all had arguments like this that just are going round in a circle, neither one of those parties is actually hearing the other, and they're only focused on convincing, on persuading, so that they can win, so that their opinion, their experience can be, yes, this is the right way, this is what is actually happening. When in reality, what, conflict resolution is all about is both people really hearing each other and really understanding, having compassion, having empathy for the other person's side, not assuming, not trying to convince them, not being not being there just to win. That's how we resolve conflict, and it's the same with yourself. But what most people do is they are butting their own head, like they're coming up against their own brick wall, because they have conflicted parts, but they're literally arguing with themselves. And I certainly used to do this when I started coaching, and I can still catch myself doing it sometimes now. If I have a thought that is worry or fear or anxiety, or let's use a more common example, an inner critic, your inner critic's voice. Your inner critic might be conflicted about you achieving success in your career, because that part might be saying, no, but you're not ready, you're not experienced enough yet, you're not good enough yet, you need to do X, Y, Z first. So that is a conflicted part, and it's not creating the right mental internal environment for you to really thrive and feel your absolute best, putting yourself forward for that opportunity. What many of us are taught is to say, fuck you, inner critic, you're wrong, I hate you, get lost, you bitch. And we'll joke about this in personal development and in coaching, naming it. I do that all the time with clients, because I find that if someone is so associated with a part, then they need to recognize that it is just a part of them and it is not all of them, because some people fall so far down the rabbit hole with a part, like they're an inner critical voice, that they think that is actually them, and it's not. It's just a collection of thoughts, of beliefs, of experiences, of stories that is within the unconscious mind. That is, it's like your unconscious mind is throwing this tennis ball over the bridge, over the wall, into the conscious thought patterns that are coming up, based on, again, experiences. If someone has had a childhood where it was unsafe to be wrong, unsafe to be last, unsafe to not win, then of course that person may very well develop a very critical inner voice, because that, even though it feels horrible, that feels like the right thing to do, because it feels like keeping themselves in line, keeping themselves safe from messing up. So I've just completely lost my train of thought, but it'll come back around. But what I was saying is, most people will simply just try to get rid of the part and tell it to fuck off, call it names, and just continue a conflict, essentially. Because if I'm telling my, ego, to use a more spiritual language, if I'm telling my ego to get lost, go away, ego, you're stupid, I don't need you, shut up, that is still perpetuating the conflict that is at play. It's not actually truly creating sustainable resolution, sustainable solution for what I'm dealing with. And you'll know that if someone tells you not to do something, if someone tells you to shut up, if someone tells you don't do that, stop it, does that make you go, oh, okay, I'll stop it? No. It makes you defensive. Just like if you're in an argument with someone and they're like, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you don't just go, oh yeah, I'm wrong. You want to defend yourself, because that's what conflict is designed to arise in us. So conscious unconscious divide, secondary gain, and conflicted parts, these all may be at play if you are feeling like you're stuck or you're getting in your own way. Why part of you doesn't want success. So how do we stop this? How do we move forward from this? The first thing I want to talk about is integration into wholeness, because that is the ultimate goal. Because if you have a conscious desire to do something and an unconscious divide that is stopping you, if you want something and at the same time you're applying meaning and a story to having it, and therefore you are gaining something by actually not having it and not changing and not doing the very thing that you say you want to do. If you have one part of you that wants it and one part of you that doesn't want it, or thinks that it's a bad idea, we need to integrate those parts. We need to bring them into wholeness. Otherwise, we're just going to continue butting heads and hoping something will change. We're going to continue shouting at each other that the sky is blue or the sky is green, and no one will find any resolution. So integration is our number one goal, you could say. How do we do that? Processing. So we need to work on that unconscious level to allow the unconscious mind to process old and new information. Old information, such as the meaning that we've created, or an old belief system that it's upholding that we no longer want to hold on to because it's perpetuating something that we no longer want to do. Processing a previous experience or a previous story we've been told or we've told ourselves, a meaning we've applied. Processing that information so that we can do something with it. And often, and I need to do a whole episode on trauma, but often if there's a kink in the armour, or one of the cogs is broken and is just on a loop, we need to close the loop. We need to fix the cog so that everything can flow, everything can begin working smoothly again, so that we can get to that place where everything is on board with what is happening. So the unconscious mind is accepting of the change that is happening. but often there's a virus or there's something, and that could be a limiting belief, it could be trauma, it could be a meaning that you've applied, it could be even like conflicting values that you have or an experience that you've had. Something is inside that needs to be processed, that needs to be moved through. That's when the rewiring and the reprogramming can begin. So clearing out anything that no longer needs to be there and installing something new. You know, installing a new belief into the unconscious mind that it is safe to be rejected. Rejection is a part of life, and rejection means nothing about who I am. I surround myself with people who love and accept me. I am loved and accepted always. I'm loved and accepted regardless. Whatever the belief system needs to be that is going to allow that change to occur, we need to rewire and reprogram that in. And often this then looks like taking actions, because this is why the 5% of action steps and the conscious work is still important, because we need to go to the interview. We need to go to the interview to realize that we've done the deeper work and so we're no longer triggered by it. We need to go to the interview to create a new experience, a new memory, a new imprint, so that the unconscious mind goes, oh yeah, like we did that and it was okay. Or even, shock, we were rejected and I feel very differently about it than I would have felt before coaching, before personal development. So integration, imagine like bringing all those parts together. Imagine those two people arguing and butting heads. They sit down, they hear each other, they understand each other, and they work together to find a resolution. That is what we want to happen. And that comes with inner work, often an external support, especially if it's something that you are very stuck with. And, the other tools and modalities like hypnotherapy, NLP, EFT, whatever it may be, that ends up being the thing that is your jigsaw piece, right? Bringing it all back around to the beginning, being that thing that finds the pieces of the jigsaw that fit together for you. And that's such a great analogy for that wholeness as well, because the wholeness we're aiming for is the jigsaw puzzle is done and you can see the full picture and you're not feeling scrambled, like looking around everywhere for the different pieces, trying to figure it out on your own. So I hope this has given you a light bulb moment or some insight into how right now you may be getting in your own way, why that isn't your fault, and what to do about it, what to look into so that you can stop it. And if you're wanting to take the next step with this and get some support with it, please reach out for one-to-one coaching. I mean, the Sisterhood and Next Level You is fantastic for doing a lot of this work. We are learning about the unconscious mind. I would say Next Level You is the group program that's the real deep dive into working with this in order to manifest a goal, in order to create the life that you want. But if you're really wanting a deep transformational level of support with this, one-to-one is for you, just because you're so unique and your past experiences and everything that has created your mind, your consciousness, is so unique to you and so private to you as well. And there's nothing like sitting down one-to-one with someone and being heard and being seen and being guided to do this work. It's next level healing, isn't it? It's such a healing experience to be able to have someone really see you and hold a vision for the change and the success or the shifts you want to make in your life, whether that be in your career, in your confidence, in your health, in your finances, in your business, whatever you are struggling with right now. I would love to support you if you're interested in one-to-one coaching. So I'll link that in the show notes. I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode. Please either tag me on stories or reach out directly on Instagram on DM. I love to get your DMs saying how much you loved this week's episode, especially when you include like your favourite takeaway or the best tip that you took from it. That really does mean a lot. So would love to hear from you. I'm at cat_Horrocks on Instagram, as well as TikTok. I'm posting more on TikTok now too, and I'll link all the information on working together below. And I'll see you next time.
Recording stopped.